Hello everybody, my name's Dean Glucina. Welcome to the second installment of Strata Today. Today we have Robert Walson, who is the Partnership Manager for ELMO. Robert, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Really pleased to be here.
Mate, thanks for taking time. Obviously, I guess probably for our viewers, would you like to tell us a bit about ELMO, who you are and what you guys do?
Look, absolutely. Yeah, happy to give you that background. So, look, ELMO is an Australian company. We were formed in 2002, and we have absolutely nothing to do with Sesame Street. I'll put that out there first. ELMO actually stands for Electronic Learning Modular Objects. So we had a bit of a geeky start with a name like that. And we come from the learning side of the world. That's where we started. And back in 2002, that meant selling CD-ROM product with our learning modules and content on it. About in the early teens, we branched out from that and we went deep into the whole HR suite. So we now consider ourselves the one place to go for hire to retire. We offer everything from still the learning, but also recruitment, onboarding, succession planning, performance management, remuneration, reward and recognition. We've got a whole range of suites. It's 16 modules. We now have payroll and rostering time and attendance. And we've just recently acquired a business for expense management. But I think, so that's the product suite, but just as importantly, as I said, we are Australian owned, we are Australian developed, we're Australian hosted. You do not have any data going overseas unless you wish it to be so. And Australian supported. So when you call us, you're not going through to somewhere in Southeast Asia. Everybody is here in Australia. Our geographic focus is Australia, New Zealand. We are considering and looking to expand overseas, but for now the focus is very much Australian. And the last thing I do want to point out, and this is very important, we are fully ISO 27001 certified. What that means is that we have the world's best certification for data privacy and data security. And I think no matter, for your listeners, Dean, no matter what solutions they're looking for, they need to look for that label regardless, because that is mission critical for the privacy and security of your employees or your customers' data.
Two great points. I mean, firstly, supporting local business is something that we should all be doing, but the security side of things gives peace of mind. So that's great insight. I mean, the question that I'd probably have is, how did COVID-19 change what you guys do, or how's it affected ELMO?
Look, great question. And I guess there's two ways to answer that. How has it affected us, and then how has it affected our clients? Look, what we saw throughout the COVID time was we saw, I guess there was a few patterns. The first pattern was that people, a lot of our products, the demand for them, or a lot of our modules, should I say, came off the boil a little bit, as you would expect, especially at the start when people were, we were all panicking about what the hell's going on and what's going to happen and is the world ending. But as things settled down, we had a significant increase in interest in our learning product set, because with people working from home and not being able to come into the office, the regular training that people were doing changed massively. You couldn't just book the boardroom out for a week, fly your guest speaker in from interstate or overseas, put them up at a hotel and just have a crammed boardroom for a week while they delivered the requisite training. That was no longer a tenable solution. So people had to hunt for something else. And what a lot of people did was they'd come to speak to organizations like ELMO to say, how can you help us with a remote learning solution? And so that was pattern number one that we saw. The second pattern that we saw from our customers was at the smaller end. So we saw a significant increase in the interest of our entire suite for the smaller businesses. And the reason was they simply did not have a solution in place. They were running off paper or spreadsheets. And when everybody's forced to work from home, as we all were, all of a sudden that became an untenable solution because you no longer had a central single version of the truth. People would be emailing spreadsheets around, people would be downloading them onto their laptops, changing them, and then pushing them off to other people. So you had a privacy issue there because you're talking about employee data, which is incredibly concerning that was being bounced around by a whole range of people. And if you accidentally sent it to the wrong person, that was an issue. You had concerns around human error. I mean, we heard cases of, small things such as, I've enrolled the wrong person into some training. People are going to get upset by that. But then you had cases of people, sending the wrong payslip to the wrong person because they were working manually and they weren't working in the office. Now, that's really, really bad. So when people realized these sorts of things, they came to talk to organizations like ours to put a solution in place. For the larger customers, it wasn't such a concern because they normally had something that they could continue to use. And it was a case of, if they wanted to move, they could just put that on pause until the COVID situation was over. And so, that was fine. They sweated the asset. But for those that didn't have a solution, real problem. Now, the other thing I'd like to point out is what we have seen here in Australia and New Zealand, because, touch wood, we are mostly over this issue, as people return to work and as companies fire up again, we're seeing a significant increase in demand around recruitment and onboarding, which makes a lot of sense as they look to rehire. They want to rehire in a more standardized, secure way, and we're seeing a significant increase there.
Mate, it's really interesting. It's looking at the impact that the pandemic's had on different businesses and then what's coming out of that as we hopefully get towards a resolution or some kind of containment. The question that I have is what kind of experiences can you share in regards to improving businesses from an ELMO perspective, from whether it be productivity or whether it be processes? Give us a snapshot.
Maybe a way to do this would be, maybe a couple of case studies, just some scenarios. So I'll give you a blue collar scenario and maybe a white collar scenario. So a blue collar scenario, recently we were working with a client up in Brisbane, on the suburbs of Brisbane, a blue collar company, cleaning business. Had a range of challenges around recruitment because those kinds of businesses, high turnover of staff, and they were doing a lot of work manually. They had, interestingly, seasonal issues where they had seasonal demand fluctuations, and so they had to onboard and offboard quite a lot, pretty much on a continuous basis. And they were doing that manually, and the productivity was just not there. The productivity they wanted, to get to where they wanted to be, they had to automate. They also had some interesting challenges around, a little bit of, how do I say this? Where, people were hiring their mates and things like that. There was a little bit of that kind of thing going on. And they also weren't ensuring every time that the requisite skills were in existence in the people that they were hiring. And so that was also a problem for them. Once they had people on board, they really, again, had a manual onboarding process. Things were being skipped, courses were being missed. And so they had no governance over that process because it was human error that was causing those problems. So we had a small HR consultant that we partner with up there who was helping them out, and she mapped out a whole range of processes for them and then said, look, you need a solution to optimize this. We've got the process now we need to operationalize it by buying a solution. And she helped them choose ELMO. And long story short, they are now able to go from onboarding 5 or 10 people a week to in excess of 100. And there's no nepotism anymore because the processes are in place. The skill gaps that they were finding have now gone. And the onboarding process is smooth, automated. People get told, this is what you need to do today, this is what you need to do tomorrow, and those things are ticked off. And the great thing about the ELMO solution is there's full governance, because as people go through the process, the system logs it. So at any time you can pull a log and prove that Fred and Jane did the courses that Fred and Jane had to do to get to the point that they needed to get to. So that was magical. And the money that they've saved and the productivity that they've gained has been very, very significant. White collar example for you, legal company here in Sydney where I am. Again, manual processes, challenges that delivered in terms of productivity and so on. They needed to automate that. They were still doing things on paper, and but they also had a no longer fit for purpose payroll solution. The solution that they had was not single touch payroll compliant, and they needed to get off that. And especially being a legal firm, they were highly aware of the challenges that caused them. So they made the decision actually to no longer be in the payroll business. And what I mean by that is they actually talked to us and said, look, we want your solution, we like it, but actually we don't want to do that. And we said that we had an accounting firm that provides a run and operate service. We don't do that ourselves. We partner with an organization that does that. We put them in touch with that organization, and they've taken that over. So again, really significant that their risk profile around payroll has pretty much disappeared, because the organization that is running that payroll are payroll experts, and they've delivered significant productivity gains by automating their HR processes.
Seems like such a far cry from what HR was 5 years ago. Thanks for giving us some insight. I mean, this is why we put together the Strata Today series, so our listeners can understand more about what's available in the market. So, Robert, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat to us today. Wish you all the success for 2021. And we look forward to our listeners, if they ever want to find someone that can help them with HR, that ELMO's there for them.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dean. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Fantastic, mate. You take care and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks very much, everybody. Stay tuned for episode 3 of Strata Today, coming up soon.